There we go. Okay. So yeah, give us the 2-minute introduction, Sam. Then we'll start to look at the exhibits.
Sure. So this is where you start. So obviously you realize very quickly that this is not a normal architectural space. You kind of have a hint that over there some stuff is happening. You see some light. There's kind of a corridor slash sculpture slash architecture. And then the main focal point is the map. And this is, a little bit like the heart of the museum where you come back when you're lost and where you like we just met up at the map today. So it's a good anchor point. Behind this wall, how to use the museum is kind of a little bit of a spatialized tutorial of how to use the museum. So that I take none of the credit for that. That's all the more that did that. Here you have this kind of a giant explosion in the sky on top of us. And it's a little bit like an evolution, I guess, of a church where gravity is really let loose and things are exploding. Things are just it's a little bit based on a flame. And I did mention Louis Kahn and playing with light and making these slits of light for it to come in and do its work from whatever angle. A big thing about VR architecture is occlusion culling. So all of these kind of walls that you see that prevent you from seeing at the end of the museum is based on occlusion culling. And obviously, I didn't want to just have straight walls or something too inorganic. And then basically there's another explosion in the distance. You don't see too much, but it's basically there's a flame here and there's another flame here. And those, as well as that kind of arch that we see next to the red path, those act as gathering points, as what's the word I'm looking for? As landmarks, I would say, to get you oriented. So at this point, the all the architecture that we're going to see, I had nothing to do with in terms of the expansions for Cannes XR. So I'm as much a discoverer of it as you guys are. Although me and Alex have had the chance to visit it already, and I'm not sure if you have already, Kim.
I have an exhibit here.
Oh, great.
So I really love the sculptural qualities of the space and the references you say to Louis Kahn is pretty much there, I think.
Nice.
I wonder if you had any thoughts when you created it, if what would happen when they would need to make it bigger,
actually, part of the design process at first was to create something modular. So I started by creating a bunch of rooms, maybe 20, 25 rooms. And then after that, I was like, let's create rooms. Then we'll make corridors. Then we'll make connections, as in doorways to those corridors. And that way you can have a system rather than something that's static. But for the main lobby or, this space, I wanted something that really wasn't modular and systematic. I wanted something that was really more like a piece of art. And so that was very, nothing symmetrical, nothing mathematical, just and really what happened is I was like, okay guys, here's a very loose sketch of 3 circles connecting to each other basically, and I'm thinking of doing a sculpture, and it's nothing like before that I'd been working in Revit, so it was always very mathematical. And so it was like, this is nothing mathematical, can you allow me to work on this for 10-15 hours and see where it goes? And they're like, yep, do whatever you want. So they gave me a green card to go into the unexplored. And it turned out really, I'm very, very happy with it in terms of it's more like a sculpture than architecture.
Yeah, I think that's very successful too.
Mm-hmm. And I owe it to them to allow me to take this risk, to go from a sketch to something completely weird. And you can't really prepare somebody for this. It's hard. You can't really describe it with words. It's either I want to do something really wild and weird, but I can't explain it to you. I can only do it as a, so, and as a consultant, there's fees associated with that. So they fully took on that risk, and it paid off.
Literally, right?
I like it really gives a sense of awe, which I think is something that's it's difficult to achieve, but it's partly, of course, because of the majestic qualities and size of the space, but also yeah, you haven't seen anything like it, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Let's start moving.
All right,
All
let's
right.
do it. Andrea, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. I have
Awesome.
one quick question about Sam as well. Like to get these super smooth surfaces,
Yep.
is the mesh density pretty high? I
So
assume it is.
here's the thing about that. My original piece was made in Oculus Medium, which is now owned by Adobe. And so it was nothing, well, it was like this, but it was nothing like this in a way as well. I have one tweet where I showed the kind of like what I gave them and what they did with it. But basically, what they did is they simplified it and they made it more mathematical. So for me, I was like, okay, I did this wild sculpture. I'm not going to model it as a mathematical model. If you want anything from me, it's going to be a decimation, etc. And then I suggest that, you know, either you do it yourself or, I mean, basically Robin took it on and he's like, oh, well, Robin is kind of the co-founder of the More. So, and he has a background in industrial design. So he, he he modeled this through his background in industrial design, and he modeled it in the exact way that he wanted it. So, you know, before I used to joke that VR architects don't have contractors, so they just kind of, you know, there's not that translation layer. However, with this, basically Robin was quote unquote the contractor, as in he took the architectural idea and made it into a workable machine and changed it, you know, because if we would have just decimated it, it wouldn't have looked as artistic, and it probably would have been way like there's probably way more hours into making this a mathematical model than there is into ideating it and sculpting the concept of it. So you'll notice like all the walls have the same thickness, for example, and there's this particular type of curves that he likes. I think it's like to the power of 4 or something weird like that he likes from his background as industrial designer. So he used those curves. I think it's like a type of NURB or something of that
Yeah.
That's
language.
Do you know which software he used?
I don't actually. I would expect it's probably Maya or 3ds Max, but I could be completely wrong because he has a background in industrial design, so he probably knows a lot of different software than what I'm used to using. My guess would be Maya or Cinema 4D, but could be wrong on that. So, I mean, at some point, what I'm going to do, or what I was planning to do before the COVID stuff, actually like a month or two after COVID was happening at Elephant Gallery in Montreal, I was going to have a show where I was going to do a super high-end light bake of the original art, of the original architecture, and then show it along with the More as it is today, and have that show of like, here's the architecture before it got converted with extremely high quality lighting as a VR experience, and then go try it as it is now. And so that's going to come in the future, where you'll be able to compare them both a lot more, because the original concept had, you know, probably 5 to 10 times more details. Like there was a lot of holes everywhere for light to bounce into and to create all of these little intricacies. So there's definitely been a simplification aspect through the conversion by Robin.
I think that's a wonderful idea just to document this because there's so many new notions that we're dealing with in this virtual architecture.
Absolutely.
That it's kind of fascinating, and it really feels like the beginning of a field that's architecture, but not really.
That's it. And I feel like, you know, it's in the future, most brands will have their websites as experiences that are in VR or AR, and it's really a new field, like you mentioned. Like it's not necessarily going to be web design, it's not necessarily going to be architecture, and I mean, really, you're kind of at the forefront of that as well. And I feel like architectural schools need to give these challenges to their students, like make a space that is 100% virtual, and you know, break those barriers you've had, live in those dreams. And yeah, like you can go buy like Nike shoes, and you know, instead of being a tour guide, there'll be like somebody showing you the different shoes or like letting you make your own custom shoe or something like that.
Yeah, and I feel like we should be having more targeted conversations like this. Like I love your observation with contractors, how there is this parallel between physical architecture where you have to have a contractor that will inevitably make adjustments to your design,
Mm-hmm.
and you also need contractors for your virtual architecture, but then understanding what the difference is, it's kind of like I feel like the most interesting conceptual parts are in that difference, or in the way like this virtual architecture is serving more like the psychological aspects and needs of its users, that it's a
Well,
whole different like ball game than physical architecture.
yeah, and I mean, I'm really happy to be in the conversation with you because I know you've delved way deeper into the philosophical aspect of architecture, which I can only touch the surface on. And I know that you bring a lot to the table in that sense of things. Now, I don't think necessarily that the equivalency of a contractor, as in this case, is going to be happening the majority of time, especially with things like Mozilla Hub. Mozilla Hub, you just put a model and it's up in the cloud. There's nobody translating it for you. It's more of quote unquote virtual architects still have to be cognizant of the limits of geometry, occlusion culling, texture, size, and things like that. So if there's any kind of thing that's going to be making it more quote unquote constructible in VR, it's just architects are going to have to decimate geometry or model things that are pre-decimated. Like when I did my first version of the gallery, it was just these kind of pyramids and two kind of towers connected by a corridor. But the whole thing, I think, was 200 polygons. So it was extremely efficient because of the original shape of it. Whereas if you're going to be doing domes and curves and things like that, we're going to learn real quick that you're going to have triangle problems and you're going to need some sort of official strategy to deal with it. So it may change a lot of the design decisions that you make.
Yes, totally.
I am, well, Alex knows, and Andrea, that I really like curves in architecture. So in all my curves or all my designs, I have curves, and as in real life, curves are expensive in VR, but for a different reason. Because you need a lot of them to have something really curvy looking.
Yes.
But I had sort of like a similar experience to you with one of my first virtual architectural spaces, in that I gave the client my Unity model, and then they had some needs, and they made some changes to it.
Right.
So it wasn't
really?
So it wasn't exactly what I gave them, but I think for the most part, all the changes were really good. So some material changes, and they added some water in it as well, which I thought we couldn't have because of performance, but they put it in there.
Right. Well, that's the thing nowadays too. You get one genius coder wizard to add some sort of highly optimized shader, or you get Kabibo or something as an artist, and they go way beyond like my limitations in terms of technical skills. I'm a big focus on lighting, but I never focus on animation. Everything I do is static, and it's meant very traditional in terms of architecture in a way. There's no moving doors. There's no, I mean, I would love to add water as part of my architecture, but I don't know of an easy way to make it live, or wind or birds flying around, or put a rat running through the building that you see sometime or something. But right now go ahead.
Yeah, well, so I know you, Andrea, you are more technically skilled than me, can create shaders and stuff, right?
I cannot create shaders, but I can code the other stuff.
Okay, but anyways, I guess for me, there's this interesting point now where I feel like as an architect for VR, I need to get more technical. I need to be able to do that, to be able to write those shaders, to be able to add water in there if I need it, and not having to rely on somebody else to fix that. I mean, I could do that, and I collaborate with people who are more technical than me, but I feel I want to do that to be able to drive more of the final expression of the space.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be explored in both. Like I can limit myself in my technical knowledge, knowing that I'll never be a programmer, and I'll still never reach the limit of the spatial explorations that are static. And then, somebody needs to explore gravity, anti-gravity water, like upside down rain, weather systems in VR and how they translate, reactive wall. Like, for example, Vladimir Storm made a space in the Museum of Other Reality where you really were into a living creature, where the walls were moving, and in the middle there was kind of like this mother beast, and like these parasites would come to you and then go back to the mother, and they would basically reach out to every user in there. Or there's another space in here that has moving fractals on the walls. That's quite impressive. I'm never going to go into those explorations, but I love them. And I just know that it would slow me down too much, that I need to keep I'm never going to reach the end of my own exploration anyhow. So it's like, but yeah, somebody needs to do it. And it's just a question of what your technical limitations you want them to be. Because I could study that for 5 years and then I'd be amateur level, and
Let's keep the conversation going, but keep moving through the exhibits. So there's
let's do it.
I have a technical question about how to move in. I only do teleportation. Is there a different way?
Yeah, if you press A or B on, you'll see this kind of little white fairy appear in front of you, and if you hold that,
yeah.
it'll drag you in the direction. And if you hold both of them on both hands, then you'll go twice as fast.
Okay,
And
cool.
it's a lot better too if you're filming for people that are going to be watching you.
Exactly. Nice.
So I agree with both what you, Kim and Sam, both of what you said. I think they're both valid directions. And it's so good we're talking about it, because it's because this virtual architecture is already presenting itself as such a wide field, and even within the last few minutes we already see architects taking different directions and yet still work within this field, and that's really fascinating. For myself personally, I think right now, for example, I have two interests, like two reasons why I go deeper into the code stuff. The first is I love the idea of moving architecture. I think there are also some architects who are trying to make physical architecture move. I'm not convinced by that approach at all, but I do feel it deep in my bones that virtual architecture should not be static. It should be not only animated, it should kind of be alive. Okay, it should just react to you and change and appear and disappear and completely completely play with this idea of occupying a static place in space and time, because it can't do that in VR. So I'm interested in that, and you need some ability, some technical ability to control those kind of things. And the second interest I have has to do with the technical limitations of some of the devices we have, like the Quest. So the reason why I was asking you how dense those meshes are is because my follow-up question was going to be, do you know if they're planning on bringing this into the Quest? And probably not, seeing all the stuff it has in, but it would be a challenge bringing that quality of smooth curvature into the Quest.
Yes, and before we keep going, Alex, if you can hear me, when you go into games, we can no longer see your screen.
You can't see my screen anymore?
No.
Interesting.
And also there's kind of a bug that I experienced where if you go in an experience, often you have to kind of restart the more to get back into it. But that may have been fixed with the 1.8 gig update from yesterday.
Yeah, right now it says if I press, I'm on Vive, and it says if I press the app button, I should get back into the main museum. But
Okay.
yeah, let me just try, I can just share my whole screen. Desktop.
Yes, Andrea. So sorry to get off the topic there for a second. So the question I remember is, are they thinking of bringing this to Quest? What was the question before that?
So I first asked you if these smoothly curved walls that you have in the lobby have
Mhm.
a high mesh density, or whether they use some other kind of shader or something to give it that smoothness in another way that's like cheaper for the processing power of the device. And then if they might use that artifice to enable taking this kind of geometry on the Quest, because that's what I'm personally struggling with right now. I designed some things for PCVR a while back, and everything was super curved.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing some stuff for the Quest, and I'm finding myself needing to change the style of the architecture I'm designing,
Yes.
or at least change my methods of achieving certain effects,
Yep.
because I can't afford so much curvature.
That's right. And also you do a lot of animation. So I don't know how much baked lighting you do, but obviously the more baked lighting you do, the better it's going to be for performance. So as far as I know, like even if stuff looks very curved, like we're not in the space right now, but you'll notice that a lot of the arches, you do see the straight lines. And I think, they've been able to push it as much as they can by doing it manually and having an expert there that still knows how to do it manually, unfortunately. Now, like, I'll just plug in my company for a second, but like at Vim AEC, if you have Revit projects, which I understand is probably not what you do, but we have like we have a whole file format that is extremely efficient at taking giant projects and making them basically as if you were going to remodel them by hand to be optimized in terms of the geometry. So that could be a potential solution. There's also things for less Revity stuff like Simply Gone that do a great job at optimizing things. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to give the answer, but I know that they want to do the Quest, and I think they, because of the artwork itself, they haven't been able to, as far as I understand.
That was going to be my response. I mean, as long as you have artworks in here that are not created specifically to run on Quest, it's not going to be realistic to have the museum run on Quest.
That's it.
And that could be a lot of work for potentially something that nobody would want to pay for.
That's it. And it's quite painful to develop on a mobile device. Unlike in Unity, you just press play and you're in it in VR. On the Quest, you have to wait 2-3 minutes before you can test it. It's a lot harder to deal with bugs. So it's much more of a painful process. I used to work at Inside VR, where that's all we did. We worked on the Gear VR at that time, if you can believe it. We'd bring giant Revit projects into the Gear VR. Like 10 million triangles into Gear VR running smoothly is quite a challenge. And you get to learn everything about optimizing everything that can be optimized, basically doing that. So I feel like, one thing they could do is they could make a simpler version of the Quest. If we look at some recent discoveries, Google announced, I'm really big into light fields. So Google announced that they found out how to stream light fields. So that could be a potential solution. And they're going to be showing it at SIGGRAPH 2020. So that could be a potential solution where basically you just stream and the performance is on another device. Obviously, there's the second version of the Quest. Well, I say obviously, but it's kind of a strong rumor right now. There's a second version of the Quest that's coming by the end of year, is the rumor, and it's going to be more powerful, smaller, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole 5G thing, right, which is going towards, again, streaming light fields or streaming VR in general. And what else? Otherwise, it's just either hand optimization, or really the best thing if you want to bring it into the Quest is choose an art style that is going to work for that. So, make simple cartoony things.
I do also have some pretty high hopes for when an Unreal 5 gets out, and if the virtualization of geometry will actually allow quite complex scenes to run on something like a Quest.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath from what I've seen from Unreal 5 for mobile. I think it's going to be amazing for desktop. Now,
Yeah.
if there's one thing that they can leverage that I've seen that's very powerful, is Vulkan. The Vulkan aspect of graphic card is kind of like running code directly onto the graphic card, if I understand correctly. And well, we've been working with it at Vim AEC, and the performance that we've seen is quite incredible in terms of bigger projects running on mobile very, very smoothly for desktop or potentially VR and the Magic Leap and things like that.
Should we check out some other art?
Yeah, Alex, do you want to join us back?
Yep, let's see. Oh, yeah, it looks like it just brings me back to Steam Home, so we'll have to get into the more again.
Okay.
That's unfortunate. Oh, wait, no,
Yeah.
actually, no, it is going right back into the more. So, yeah, it looks like they fixed it. I have a nice welcome back message. That's cool.
And you're at the entrance, or?
I'm exactly where I left off. So I was in the Stanford Virtual Becomes Reality room. So yeah, I can get back to like near the end of the red carpet. So yeah, right now I'm right by where the red carpet ends.
Okay, let's see if we can find you. I don't see you.
Ooh, it even remembered my camera settings. That's cool.
I do not see you at the end of the red carpet.
Ooh, hold on.
Because we saw your body, and then you were in a comatose.
I see you.
There
I'm
we
really
go.
big. Maybe I have to
Yeah, we got
friend you again or something.
I just asked you to
Here we go.
join, so
Right.
somehow we're back in. Now, to get back on the point of this architectural analysis, this is the entry point. And the heart of it is over there, this kind of floating, what seems like a piece of art behind you, Alex. You see it there, the blue circle?
Yeah.
So maybe we can explore that, and that's going to. Have you explored it already? Am I spoiling it? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll let you go towards it, and this is going to be a great conversation starter.
Oh yeah, here we go.
So this is the nexus of gravity, where all gravities converge.
I must say I have a serious problem with this design.
Well, I don't think
is
it's
good.
perfect. I think it's problematic, but it also explores some very interesting non-Euclidean gravity concepts.
But Tim, tell us more about why you don't like it. I think it's so important we also talk about these aspects.
Well, it's not really this, but it is the curved wall, walking on the curved wall. At least when like the curved corridors going to the left and right here. When I did this the other day, I had problems with simulation sickness.
Oh, really?
I mean, simulation sickness, as you know, is something that's very different from person to person. So for some people, it is comfortable, but for other, they can get queasy. So that's why one of the things I really strive for in architectural design for VR is comfort, and for me that's really at least for now my kind of the foundation of everything I do. And then although I really like that you're playing with it and you're challenging gravity basically. But my body is still rooted in gravity, so I guess then there's this mismatch.
And what aspects of it do you think triggered your sickness? Is it just switching from a wall to a floor?
I think it's actually this part.
Alex, do you want to follow us here?
So when I'm walking here, it's like I'm starting to wonder: is it me that's turning, or is it?
Alex, do you want to come over here?
I'm trying to. Oh, there you guys are.
Is it my body that's turning, or is it actually the room that's turning? It becomes confusing for me.
Right. I can see that. I'm not sure if I mean, when we're not filming, often we'll be teleporting just because it's much faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can feel it actually. It is a little bit of a weird thing happening. So here's the thing. Here's a spoiler of how this space works. If you didn't notice earlier, well, actually now we're on the wall even. So really, the ceiling is as much part of the show as the floor. So instead
Yeah.
of having 2 stories, they've
Mm.
put half the exhibition or a third of the exhibition on the ceiling. And right now, actually, what I'm looking at is the wall. So actually, no, I can't walk on the wall. But if I go on here, I can be on one side, which is the floor. And then if I go on the other side, I'll be onto the ceiling. So it's kind of a recycling of space. And all of these different recycling of gravities end up into the heart of the exhibition, which is kind of the conference room we were just at. So they all converge as a little bit like a funnel onto the main space, which is where the conferences are happening.
No, I love the part of walking on the ceiling, because when you're walking on the ceiling, it feels like the floor. It's just this thing that kind of bridges it, which is the problematic space for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it certainly can bring in motion sickness. Now, I think if you were to just teleport rather than Alex is upside down to me right now.
Yeah, I think I broke it actually.
Well, it's a little bit buggy, and yes, I think you did break it. You can tell that it's innovative by all the bugs. And let me see, are we seeing anything on screen? Yes, we're still seeing it, thankfully. But yeah, there was an update, so they fixed some of the bugs. Oh, you're back. You're back on the right track now.
Yeah. Okay.
So, to give him credit, I think this was a little bit of a, not last minute, but not as much of a luxury of time as they would have liked for something so ambitious happening at the Moore, because obviously of the crisis of COVID. So there's a little bit of a bug. We'll just say it gives it personality and grit.
Yeah. Cool.
I have a question about these effects that you see in some of the pieces. Do you get from more like a guideline, or even, I don't know, like a namespace with methods, and then you code it yourself, or do they code it for you? Like, how do these work?
Usually there's different aspects, right? So for things where it's code related, I think basically you give them a Unity project, and they're just extremely generous in working with the artists to achieve the goals of the artists. So like, for example, there was a spinning circle teleporter. So the artist wanted that, and they just created this spinning circle teleporter until it worked like the artist wanted it. In terms of working with Kabibo, like I think now too with the new architecture, before it was kind of like, give us a piece and we'll put it somewhere. Whereas now I think with the new version of the museum with Kevin Mack and Kabibo, they were like, okay, do you want to take over this part of the architecture? We'll give you the model and then you can react to it. So that's even more integrated. And yeah, I think they just work very closely with the artist to make it happen as the artist wants it to happen. So it's not like a drop here. It's like,
I can speak a little bit to it as well, although we might want to revisit it when we go into the exhibit where our project is. But our project, we have an Unreal project, but it's multi-user, and it's a bit huge, not optimized, so there was no way we could launch it from within here. But you can definitely have a Unreal or Unity executable launch from within the museum. So what we did was create a sort of a little montage, a little sculpture to go with a video that plays on the wall, since we couldn't launch the prototype.
Yeah, why don't we head over to it, Kim?
All right, let's see if I can find the way.
Yeah, do you know which world it's in?
It's in Can XR. Is that?
I think, well, the one where there's more doors is the principal exhibition, I think. So it's probably on this side.
Way? The other side, yeah.
I think it's this way. Behind you, Kim?
Oh.
I think it's here. And actually, Kim, you bring a good point, because, I was talking about art that is integrated where we can all see it together. but to open up the possibilities and to have these festivals, it's not like, this is a Unity made world, and obviously it's multiplayer. So it's not possible to go from a Unity made world smoothly with people to some sort of other EXE or Unreal Engine experience. So they've created this whole concept of kind of a teleporter between these worlds. And, there's still a few rough edges, as we saw, that need to be fixed. Generally, it's improving very, very fast. And so now, obviously, if you go into somebody else's experience, it's no longer multiplayer, but there's this really nice transition, that this new language that's emerging, where you kind of style the teleporter, and you give a little bit of a taste of what's coming through garnishing the teleporter with your own branding or content.
It is actually, we're on the ceiling now, and it's on the floor. So
okay.
I don't know
if we can just go on the wall here. No. I think we need to be at the ends or in the middle.
Oh, what about here?
Oh, you got it. Okay. We see the red carpet, actually.
Way. Yeah, back to the red carpet.
So it's weird that, see here on this wall, I can't teleport.
All
I'm kind of stuck here.
Then left.
Is it the Tribeca direction or the kaleidoscope direction?
Kaleidoscope. Should be the second on the left.
Oh, the space between us.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Cool. All right.
And see here, we see the branding with the oh, nice. There's even a half teleporter. Like here, it doesn't seem like a teleporter, and here it seems like a mirror / teleporter.
Yeah. So this is a little sculpture. It's actually somehow, I don't know why they did it, but they pushed it down into the floor. It's supposed to be a bit higher, so you should see your feet. But
okay.
And then I guess when you get within some distance to the screen, it triggers the film.
Interesting.
So Kim, what kind of work did you get to do on this?
A little bit of architectural work on the Oslo scene that you will see in the prototype, which will play on the video in a little while.
Adding the videos really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the buildings, basically the buildings we are underneath now, are based on real architecture in Oslo, and are actually projects I worked on, not as an architect, but working in architectural visualization many years ago in Oslo. I worked with this building, so I had 3D models of the buildings. So I basically slashed them to make them run on Unreal, because they were Revit models and Max models that were not suitable for real time.
Nice.
But basically the prototype you see here is something we did in 3 days.
Okay.
We had like a hackathon.
Huh.
And yeah, it's.
Is player 2 named after you?
Absolutely not. But yeah, let's see if we can get them. I think the next shot will be more from the Oslo side of it. Yeah. So basically, these buildings here are from Oslo and from something called the Barcode project.
So Kim, is this a game, or what is it going to be in its final stage?
I don't like to call it a game. The kind of so the director Nadia Lipsik, her background is in live action role play. So it has some strong ties to that, to live action role play. So it's definitely more narrative than game.
Or there's the whole concept now of walking simulators, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice. Have you guys ever seen the work of Moshe Linke or A Catalept?
I have not.
I don't think so.
They're both a little bit obscure alternative artists that deal specifically with kind of surreal architecture. I think you'd quite enjoy it. With Moshe Linke, he normally makes desktop applications, but I was able to beg him successfully to create, basically to press the Make VR button in Unity and to publish it. So
Wow.
he doesn't officially make VR games, but he sent me a build that I was able to explore in VR successfully.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll look that up later tonight.
Yeah, I'll ping you to their Twitter account.
Fantastic.
Sam, do you know if the videos sync up between groups? Like, because we're all here together, is the
I
video
don't
playing
know.
at the same spot for all of us? I wonder.
I don't know. It's a question I've had as well.
It says 3-player prototype public testing now for me.
And
Oh, not
then
for
no,
me.
the answer is no. Okay.
No, I'm seeing like
That was
these
easy to solve.
these goals. But yeah, that's one of the first questions I had too when I came in, because somebody else came in like 10 seconds after.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's the trigger working?
So yeah, so I guess multiplayer is still challenging aspect of creating VR experiences.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a quote unquote philosophical question, like, should it trigger at the same time? Maybe there's a button to sync it. Because if somebody comes in 10 minutes in the video, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Are they going to lose it? Are they starting from scratch? What if you don't know them? And then the other scenario, obviously, is when friends are hanging.
I would say part of the experience of going to a museum is walking into a video that's halfway done and trying to figure out what's going on.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's like, do we want to change that? Or do we want to keep it as is? Or probably the right answer is to give the option to do both.
Right. Like give the option to the, exhibit maker.
Or like a big reset for group friend or something. Or per exhibit.
So you said that you were involved in this part of the architectural more or
The
not?
opposite, I wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some elements that actually, like the windows. If we look outside, the windows remind me of some of my work that I've done in university, playing with light. But I don't think. I'm not sure if it's inspired by me or if it's just them that did it. I have a feeling that it's just them that did it. I can't remember all the deliverables I gave them, and I've obviously done a lot of architectural VR sketching before I worked as a consultant for the architecture. So I think it's just a coincidence that these windows are very similar to windows I've done before.
Right.
So is this the new wing that you mentioned earlier, Sam, that they added temporarily? Okay.
Yes. And I'll just go back to the map real quick to show Andrea. So you see here. Oh, can you see my screen, Andrea?
No, I still
I'm trying to.
Alex,
where'd you go,
Alex
Sam?
wanted to go back.
The
Just
map
go
at
back.
the beginning.
Oh, you went back to the map at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I can do that too. Boop. Okay.
Voila.
All right.
So
Here we go.
see here, there's this kind of a giant triangular space, and then there's like the gravity mixolator, the mixer. And so this is the addition starting from here, coming out of this circle. So this is temporary until July 4th, basically.
Got it.
So it's going to be here until I thought it was going to be taken down this weekend.
I believe it's until July 4th.
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but I believe so. I hope I'm
Something
not
that's
wrong
ending in
because
the
I
next
haven't
day or
seen
two.
enough. I'm sorry.
It might just be the
Yeah.
live sessions.
Yeah, I think it's the live sessions happen for 3 days, and then the space stays up until July 4th.
Cool. Then I'll have a chance to explore more.
Yeah, because I mean, I definitely want to explore more on the weekend. This guide
Kim
is.
and Sam, are there any favorites you guys have seen so far that we just want to take a look at together?
I mean, there's some really good stuff, but a lot of them are like 20 minutes long.
Right.
And I think you don't see other people when you're in them. So one thing we can do is go back onto the little dot here. If you teleport right there, we'll go back to the entrance.
To the dot.
Okay. Which
The
XR Virtual 2020.
Yes. There's kind of like these waypoints where you can teleport. There we go. So this brings us back into the entrance. The
Sam,
note.
what about the? I know this isn't cans related, but what about that exhibit where it's a box with the normals on one side, and
Yep.
when you're inside the box, you turn into a different
That
avatar?
was fully the artist implementation.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that one a lot.
It's kind of like a non-Euclidean type of exploration.
Yeah. But are there any? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the main architectural feature, obviously, well, we saw it was nice to see it from the macro side. So there's one wing. There's a whole other world happening on the ceiling. So you could imagine that at some point you would just see a bunch of people walking on the ceiling as well. There's the kind of light openings that we see that kind of provide this indirect light, and obviously gracing the walls with light. And then this is the core of it. This is the gravity mixolator, or whatever you want to call it. So those are the main concepts to digest, critique, understand, and improve upon. And obviously the whole concept of being able to go on any side and having this kind of centerpiece is not something that we've seen before in traditional architecture or otherwhere.
Yeah.
So one thing I thought we might touch on, which is the space is very majestic and very very tall, but I would like to see more sort of elements that would give me a little bit more information about scale, like something that's more relatable to a human scale figure. That for me that would help with understanding the scale of the space.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there are literally users in here, especially as ghosts. But you're right.
The
There's
users
maybe a
change
little bit of
size too.
disconnect. They do. We drink this booze, this magical Alice in Wonderland booze, and they just charge our accounts and our PayPal's for every drink.
That's what they do.
That's why you get a $500 bill.
Wow.
I think I'm a giant right now.
So I can't ever remember which one is the regular
Me neither.
size.
I think the blue one is regular, maybe?
I think
Or
that's
no?
right.
Or-
Yeah, blue
I
seems
regular?
regular.
Okay.
Green is big, pink is
Right, yes.
tiny.
Okay. So it's a little bit weird because blue is the tallest glass.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Back
It's
to
a
us.
fun idea, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of like, hey, you can't do that in reality, so we're going to do it here. Actually, yesterday we were on one side of the wall in the gravity, or 2 days ago, the gravity was like going this way. So we just kept throwing glasses as giants on the people in the conference room. So they kept seeing these glasses pass around. So yeah, Andreea, do you have any questions or comments regarding these main concept and this space?
I'm trying. I love all of this. I'm glad I stayed.
Good.
I love the idea of walking on the walls and the ceilings.
Yeah.
And how they double the rooms.
Yeah.
But I do wish they had pushed the architecture formally a little bit more, and not necessarily in the same direction that you did for the main the main wing. But I do feel like these, these square entrances and just the whole relationship of the flat floor and the walls, it it doesn't it doesn't feel like it's pushing it conceptually as much as it could have. And so
Yeah.
maybe formally it could have had a bit of more like a change or an animation or something the moment you as user flip the side, maybe, or just, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, there could have been more language. It's a lot of big empty walls, I could say. Um, and to me, these kind of beam things are a little bit weird because, like, they kind of hide the window over there. This one is used as, sign making, etc. But it does seem like one thing I feel like I don't want to do in VR is try to make scale by without a human reference, as you kind of mentioned. So, like, yes, you can make a 10-kilometer ceiling height, but if there's no relation to the humans, then it's just, what's to stop you from making a 50-kilometer, ceiling height, and then at some point it just stops being interesting. Now, you did mention, I actually quite appreciate generally, or at least it's a good start, the entrances. I like the fact that the walls here don't touch the floor. It's
Yeah.
quite subtle, and it
Yes.
also what we're seeing here is probably the reaction once again to occlusion culling, right? So this allows us to have many entrances where you don't have that performance problem of seeing all the art at once. However, it's a little bit hard to tell what's behind it. There's room for improvement, and when I say that, I also don't know how to improve it right away. I'd have to dig it, because these transitions where these openings where there's occlusion culling is one problem that I've dealt with for many years now, or at least one or two, and it's a tricky thing. Like, how do you make it that you don't see the other side, but that it's not too boring at the same time, and you're not just creating all these frustrating openings where you don't see the other side. So it's something that, it's going to take many years to refine, I think, until we find a good, but this is a good start. Like, I love the floating wall, and actually, if you notice, the wall is actually coming, it is connected to the ceiling, but it's not connected to the floor. So
Right.
and in some room where there's more light, it's a bit more dramatic because you see the colored light coming from under it, or like, see here, it's a little bit more of a tease because we get an idea of some shadows and some orange behind it.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree. Without with the fear of trying to toot my own horn or say that what we did is better than others. One of the things that I feel is a challenge is that when I get into a room and there's like this beam that you have to touch in order to get into a 360 video, it's not really pulling me in. I mean, there's absolutely nothing in that space that makes me want to look at it, other than that I think it's probably going to be good because it's, it has been curated.
Right. Well, I mean, that's really where I'm trying to find one where it's nicely done. And there are certainly some where it's better than just a beam. There's room where it's just a beam. Like, see here, this one. Like, this is more pulling me in. If you want to come into this room right here,
Yeah.
like,
Coming.
I wish all of them had this aspect. And I've kind of touched on this earlier, this idea of where they kind of give you a little bit of a teaser of a little trial of what the experience is through the environment. So here I don't even know where the beam is. Is it in the tree? I'm not sure. But the more they can bring you into the art without teleporting you into an EXE before you decide to do that or not, the better. And also, there's more of a smoother transition with 360s, because with 360 content, you're still in the same experience, and you can be in the same experience with your friends. Although I still have the same question of, when you start a 360, I think it's not synced between the users. So unless you enter at the same time,
Right.
you're going to be talking about different things, basically. Spoiler alerts.
Is this tilt brush work, or?
I believe this is tilt brush, just from looking at the
definitely tilt brush.
shaders.
Yeah, I'm on a an old graphics card, a Titan X, which is, I think, comparable to a 1070, and this has serious performance problems for me.
Are you seeing that it just turned into a bunch of particles?
I do.
Okay.
Oh,
So yeah,
it all
this
goes
is
brown. Yeah.
yeah.
Dark.
So but you're on what graphic card?
It's an old Titan X, but it's
Oh,
not
okay.
really, it's maybe comparable to a 1070 card or something.
Right. Interesting. I'm not having any issues, but I'm on a 2080, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm holding out for the 30
Yes.
series.
Yes, in like October-ish.
Yeah.
My wallet is already crying.
By the way, Sam, do you know how the DLCs are divided up? Like the Development Showcase and Tribeca Immersive, I think those make sense. But what about the Positron Awards and Veer?
Well, I think one is there's two of them that are 6 depth of field experiences, the one you just mentioned, and then Veer, I believe, is only 360. Now,
Oh,
personally, I'm not a big fan of 360, so I didn't download
Right.
it. It's kind of like, it's not VR, guys.
Those of us that care about the experience of moving through a space tend to be less favorable
Yeah.
towards 360.
Or, I mean, if you're developing for AR, well, 360 is not going to help you very much. But yeah, obviously you can't, it's harder to do 3D capture without 360. It's a whole new set of tools and limitations. So yeah, these kind of teasers, spatial teasers definitely help rather than being in an empty room. And in some of them, actually, I've seen where there's not even an EXE. The whole thing is incorporated in the room. There's one where it's like Alexa or like Contact Mom or something. Now, one thing that would really help with this space is a map.
Right. Yes.
You get lost quite easily, and for me, I've done maybe 3 or 4 experiences, and I was like, okay, before I do all these experiences, I'm going to go into each room and kind of figure out what it is, and then decide if I want to come back to this room later. Or see, this mystery room has no title. What's in here? Oh, it's empty, guys. Oh my god, we found the empty room.
An empty room.
There's a room for rent.
Oh boy. Yeah, there should be a big sign that's like your exhibit here.
This is
Call
like
this
the
number.
janitor room.
Huh.
Actually awesome.
So one thing I was wondering about, I really like the map room and getting back to the map, but I would also like to maybe have the map with me.
Yeah.
I can see that actually. I mean, the interesting thing about the maps is that it's the way they did it at the More is really, more specific innovation. So really huge kudos on them into all of these smart integration. You'll notice that when you hold the teleporter button, you can see people's names through the walls. Now, this is more important when they're in the same group as you. So like if I teleport outside and you can't find me, you can hold the teleporter and you'll see me through the walls.
Ah, that's brilliant.
There's on the map, I believe you can teleport to your friends or to people that are in your group. You'll see them on the map live as well. And so if you get lost, you can always go back to the map and then find your friends that way. Obviously, teleporting up brings you back to the map. So that's another innovation. But yeah, you're right. And it's like, what would be the appropriate format? Is it like a button on your watch that just brings up the map? Obviously, the map is kind of huge, and without the size, it's a bit hard to read.
True that. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, at least the ability to easily go back to the map makes it a very important space. As in, it's a little bit like, when you're a kid and you're like, okay, if we get lost in the museum, we go to the shop or something. Or like, if you're going to lose your mom at Disney World or something.
So we've been go ahead, sorry.
Oh, that's it.
I was just gonna say that we've been working on 2 things that are not out yet, where we did experiment with these ideas of bringing the map with you. And one of them, you have the map, you have like a watch, like a bracelet on one of your hands, and you press a button and the map shows up. But that is a smaller map. And we have another thing we're working on with a big map, exactly like this one, and then when you press the button, it just shows you this whole circle in front of you.
Right.
And I'm sure there are other ways of doing it as well. Actually, for one of these things, we are still kind of brainstorming ways of dealing with this navigation issue.
Yeah, I think it's like definitely not easy to do, and it's a great problem to attack. I mean, I know at Vim AEC where I work, we kind of have the same problem where we are doing a map system for kind of any Revit project that you bring into the Magic Leap, and so we're kind of thinking of the same types of limitations. Although it's trickier, you know, it's easier if you do a map and you know what's going to be in there. But if it's going to load any kind of building, you have to think about different things. So we have a really good expert, Bo, on our team that's worked at Microsoft on early AR stuff, and he's pretty clever with, especially with augmented reality. But that's not something that's online as a feature yet. But it's I love these challenges. You know, they're exciting, they're hard, they require a lot of imagination, and most of all, they require a lot of testing to test the assumptions that you know.
I feel like these issues are also related to the bigger problem of standards, how we lack standards for teleport, standards for accessing the map of the world and so on, because sometimes I do get a little bit tired having to relearn everything in every new app that I tried that day, for example.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this has been such a treat and so lovely. I do have to go now.
Okay.
Are you
There's
sweating
dinner.
your face off, Kim? Oh, also dinner.
Yeah, well, there's more and more the issue of dinner, but yeah. But please continue on without me, and maybe we can meet up again sometime.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then with you, Andrea, as well in VR.
Yeah.
Yes,
Congrats
usually
again on the
I am
project,
in.
Kim.
I love the last few times we did this, and maybe we should start a list of ideas of where we want to go next. I know we had more on our list for a while now.
Yeah.
I would really love to go into the wave with you guys. I've had some
the wave would be
fantastic
great.
music experiences there.
Yeah.
And there's another thing, like I know that, you know, Kim, you have a lot of architecture that you've done. I have a lot of architecture, probably Alex and Andrea as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of normal VR, but it's basically what they're using to do the multiplayer here. And apparently it's like idiot proof that you just download it in your project, you press play and it works. So I'm thinking I'd love to share my own work, or like, you know, I've mentioned I've created like 20, 30 rooms for the more that never made it in. So I'd love to kind of explore some of those or see your projects and just the stuff that never made it to the public that's a bit more experimental. And you know, maybe do like a little architecture critique and feeling the spaces together and seeing what works or what's the lost gem or what was a good thing that never came out.
That'd be great.
That's fantastic.
In fact, I have a little zip file I can share with you all that's kind of like a normal prefab for Unity that also includes painting. So it's a way that we could all get in each other's experiences and then even like sketch on top of it.
I mean, yeah, if I could just drop a model into Unity, you know, send it out to you guys and we can meet in it, that would be perfect, especially as a non-coder. It just needs to be like totally sound/idiot proof. And yeah, that would be amazing.
Cool. All right.
Well, Kim, enjoy your dinner.
Thank you. And enjoy the rest
Bye,
of your tour of the
Enjoy
museum.
your physical experience.
Okay.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Well,
every experience, by the way, should have something meaningful that happens when someone leaves the room. Like the avatar should explode or something.
Yeah.
I heard that, but I agree.
Melt into a puddle.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing we do see a lot in VR is like, hey guys, I'm going to go take a break. And then you see, I'll do it right now.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
You'll see a lot of, or the other flavor of this is the desk version where there's just kind of like a half crumble like this.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
sometimes the controller is going to be like over here.
Right.
So
The
yeah,
best
it's these kind of VR cadavers and their styles.
the best version of the desk pose I've seen was with Alex in Spatial, where Alex
Oh.
had to do stuff on his computers all the time, and his elbows were like turned 180 and still like bent at some kind of weird dismembered zombie. And it was more powerful in Spatial because actually the arms were also somewhat photorealistic.
Right.
And actually, there was a good 10 minutes earlier where Alex, one of your arm was like 2 meters away for the whole time, so it was very stretched.
Yeah, I actually plugged in one of my controllers to charge, so that's
Nice.
why.
Nice.
That's so funny. And then, yeah, I definitely want to take you guys on a tour of some of my favorite VR chat worlds now, because Christina Heller and Will Cherry have been doing such a good job curating this XR social club. And this past Wednesday, we were in a world where you had like a grappling hook and you could also fly around. And it was this wonderful thing that Paul Debevec thought of, where at the end it's like, oh, when we leave, we can like grapple out of the space. And that was a really cool way to say bye to everyone.
Nice. It's just whoop, like Spider-Man out of there.
Exactly. Till next time.
Yeah, you're right that there needs to be more of a refinement for being born and dying from VR, the in and out of the world.
Yeah.
Things
to think about.
I'm getting a bit hungry, but what do you think? Do you want to keep going
dinner.
or?
I guess I'm just wondering if there's any standout ones. I mean, actually, let's go to the friend maker real quick because I want Andrea to see that even from a 2D perspective, because I just keep thinking about it. There's like something about that exhibit.
There are good ones, but I don't know where they are because there's no way to...
We can find them from the main map.
We can see the underside of the museum through this through here.
Can you?
Yeah, at least I can from my perspective right now.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Bouquet of architecture.
Yeah. That's really neat.
Yeah.
So here, let's go back to the main room, the main map.
Okay. Oh yeah, you were talking about the non-Euclidean map at the cube thing, right?
Yeah, it's called Friend Generator. If you look at artwork, Friend Generator. Now, is there a way to teleport to it? Oh yeah, it blinks. It blinks over in the map.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna jump over to Friend Generator. Join me there.
Okay.
All right. So Andrea, you see this white box?
Yeah.
It's not just any white box. No. Wait for Sam to get here.
I am here now.
All right. So why don't I'll let you go into the space first since I'm doing spectator view. So when you go into the space, you become a person, as Sam is now. But then it starts to do this like loop back thing. That's why it's called Friend Generator, I guess, because every so many seconds it creates a new version. And it's also clever because when you're in the space, it looks like you're inside a full white box, but of course all the normals are one-sided. So if I go out of here, whatever angle I look at this from, it's a way to look into it. It's like a really simple idea, but something about it I keep.
And what's great is when there's like 5 or 10 people in here.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, what's happening?
Yeah, when Sam was giving his initial tour, there were like 12, 15 people in there, and it just got nuts, totally nuts.
Yeah, I love it. I think the idea with the normals for a museum is kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it as just there's so much possibility with non-Euclidean architecture.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explore because you usually do need a little bit of a programming background. But like there's actually, the way that they recycle the ceiling, I can see a lot of that happening with non-Euclidean geometry. Like one way, an old idea is like having a bank where there's just a corridor and like you go to the counter and really it's like kind of teleporting these remote workers there. So it's just a tiny little room, but then in AR or VR, whatever, it expands into all of these overlapping rooms, really, that overlapping spaces together.
That's cool. And then I guess just because we're here, like all of this crazy shader stuff, I'm constantly entranced by.
Well, Andrea, this really
wow.
warrants its own, could easily have a 2-3 hour tour of the Museum of Other Realities. And the good news too is they usually add more content every 1, 2, or 3 months. Now, obviously, if they're doing a bunch of festivals this year, so the content will probably slow down in favor of the festivals. But
I'm definitely gonna jump in tomorrow as soon as my download finishes.
Nice.
Cool.
I just got a thought related to what you said earlier, Sam. You said that sometimes they are sending the model of the architecture of a particular wing to the artist, so they make sure that their work fits in there better, or they're planning on doing that.
This is an example, actually. So this is not just any random art. This is Kabibo responding to this art, to this architecture.
Yeah, I love that. And specifically here, I was actually thinking that what would be even more virtual or closer to the heart of virtual architecture would be trying to do it sometimes the other way around, which is you get the art sent to an architect and the architect then does the architecture around the art, because the other way around is we've seen that in some like Frank Gehry's museum in Bilbao, for example, has some of these curved surfaces in the lobby, and then the artists have to produce something that just fits in there. But the other way around, like making the architecture after the art, would really be something you can only get done in VR.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I mean, in terms of how it actually happened, I think it would they would need to change their workflows, because I gave them my deliverable and it took them a year to publish this, although it was a very ambitious project. So, but I'm sure for a new wing, for a new room or something, it would make a lot of sense. And
but it could also be something in flux, like there could be a section of the museum where literally that whole wing is always architecture responding to the art in it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do think that the Moore is a good candidate, because they've shown over and over again that they really do care about the architecture not being standard. So yeah, they're very experimental and they're very daring, and they eat up those risks with glee.
Can I fly right now? I feel like I lost my ability to fly.
I think I'm always a bit confused. Maybe you have to go in the bubbles to fly. Oh yes, this is it. So when you go in the bubbles, you can fly.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like you pick up the current. Of course.
There we go. Whoop.
Haven't you ever gone into the sea?
Oh, whoops. It sent me back to the main map.
Yeah, I've had some issues before. Oh, to the main map. Yeah. Oh, really?
I'm back to you now, though. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
So you see over there is another example of Kabibo responding to the architecture.
Yeah, all the Kabibo work is so cool.
And he's done like the lion's share of the art almost, in terms of, I mean, Kabibo is, if not my favorite VR artist, definitely in the top 5. He just has such a good synthesis of extremely good art sense and inspiration, as well as talent for coding and realizing his work.
So fun.
And then he's a great guy.
Yeah, oh yeah. And some of the like audio reactive stuff is really cool too. I don't know how much of that's Kabibo or other guys, but
I think all of the audio reactive stuff is Kabibo. Like this is audio reactive.
Right. So fun.
I am audio reactive art.
Yeah.
And
like you try to imagine how expensive it would be to install something that can do 1/10 of this in the real world. And then, we just get to have this in VR and see it from anywhere in the world.
That's amazing. That's it. It's like, I wouldn't have paid for like an airplane ticket for all 3 of us.
Yeah.
plus COVID.
La la la. I like how even down there, yeah, it's still responding to our audio, even though that we're not like in that exhibit.
That's it. This space responds to audio, and then there's another audio reactive piece. And this is Kabibo, this is Kabibo, there's another Kabibo, and they're all three are audio reactive.
So cool.
And so yeah, Kabibo is like one of the original masters of VR art, and he's blessed the space with his presence. And yeah, I mean, like, I entrust him to take over any architectural space, any day.
Yeah.
Like, look at the you know the way that his stuff goes right in the stairs.
Yeah.
It all ties together. It's just like give Kabibo more leeway.
I really do love that all these stairs are made in Revit.
I'm not sure, were they? I don't think they are.
Oh, I thought you said all your stairs were done in Revit. No.
Actually, this is not something that I designed.
Oh.
Yeah. So the main entrance is definitely something that I've designed. Some of the kind of corridor where we were is actually they've kind of remixed some of my original designs.
Gotcha.
Generally, the rule of thumb is like if it's not a square room, I designed it. But this is an exception with the stair.
Yeah,
And,
you could do a stair like this in 3ds Max pretty easily.
Yes, and Robin has he likes round stairs like this, and he's like, it looks simple, but it's actually quite complicated. And through the years, he's always had these kind of circular stairs, and they've evolved. So this is definitely Robin's not pet project, but like he has a thing for these circular stairs.
Oh, cool. I am definitely getting hungry now, so this has been so much fun. And yeah, I'm going to keep exploring some of the other exhibits after I eat. So for anyone who's going to check this out later or tomorrow, I'll try to send a list of what really caught my eye.
Nice.
That would be perfect, Alex.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Andrea, if you're available whenever, let us know. And I mean, I think we're probably going to organize some. You guys are going to organize some really cool upcoming visits. So I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. We did a while back. We did go into one of the things I worked on that's on Steam, and it's not multiplayer, but I feel like it still kind of worked. So
it totally worked
even
doing it this way, like with all of us in it at the same time, talking over Teams.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it would be amazing if we could all get the Normcore plugin to work anyway.
Yeah.
But in case we still have stuff that is maybe old and we can't get into the project file anymore for whatever reason we don't have time, I think it's still worth meeting and doing this design critique sessions or just feedback session or just fun sessions without multiplayer, just with a video chat running in parallel.
Absolutely. And some of my VR art pieces are just one room, so it's not like you can get confused about what you're talking about even if you're not together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go scarf down some food.
Yeah.
And looking forward to hearing from you guys. And I'll tweet at you, all three of you, the two artists that I really like that do architectural work, Moshe Linke and is it called? The name of the experience is "Sing Me to Sleep" by A Catalept. So
yeah, please do. I've never heard of them. I'd love to check it out.
Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, I wish you a very great afternoon.
Cheers.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.